Taiwan's drone industry is taking off. In the first quarter alone, the nation's drone exports surpassed the total recorded for all of last year. At the same time, the global race for unmanned systems is accelerating. NATO is investing heavily in drone capabilities. Washington is strengthening cooperation with Taiwan. And governments around the world are searching for trusted alternatives to Chinese-made technology. What was once viewed as a niche industry is rapidly becoming a cornerstone of economic security, military readiness, and technological leadership. As lessons from Ukraine continue to reshape modern warfare, Taiwan finds itself at the center of a rapidly evolving opportunity. I'm Laurel Stewart, and this is The Chainmaker. 3 key takeaways from today's episode. The global drone race is accelerating. Supply chain security is now a national security priority. Taiwan is emerging as a key player in autonomous systems. To see what's driving this transformation, let's first take a look at the latest developments shaping the global drone industry. This is TechBiz. First up, the United States. The US Air Force is expanding its drone capabilities through a new $2.49 million contract for Black Widow drones. The project will support testing of next-generation reconnaissance systems and reflects growing demand for secure, domestically produced defense technology. Meanwhile, NATO is scaling up its drone ambitions. The alliance plans to invest more than $40 billion in uncrewed systems through its new Drone Edge initiative. The program aims to accelerate procurement, expand deployment, and train more drone operators over the next 5 years. And Ukraine is looking beyond Europe to strengthen its drone supply chain. By deepening cooperation with Japan and Taiwan, Kyiv hopes to secure critical components and reduce reliance on Chinese suppliers. The move underscores how drones have become a strategic priority, not only on the battlefield, but across the global defense industry. That's all for today's TechBiz.
Well, we would buy their drones, and we make drones. We make great drones, but they have an ability to make a lot of them. It's an amazing ability. Very few. Well, that's why I say with the Patriots, they would be able to do it. Most countries would not be able. They don't have the talent. You have very talented people. So, yeah, I think we're going to make that deal.
The war in Ukraine has accelerated the global shift towards autonomous warfare. As governments race to secure trusted drone technologies and supply chains, Taiwan is making its move. From becoming the first Taiwanese company to clear the Pentagon's Blue UAS review and now partnering with US defense AI leader Shield AI, Thunder Tiger is moving to the forefront of this rapidly evolving industry. Today on The Chainmaker, I'm joined by Gene Hsu, General Manager of Thunder Tiger Group. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, my pleasure.
Just a few years ago, Taiwan's drone makers were fighting for a market share in an industry largely dominated by DJI. Today, geopolitical tensions and supply chain concerns are reshaping the competitive landscape. As governments seek trusted alternatives, Taiwanese manufacturers are finding new opportunities in some of the world's most strategically important markets. Gene, I'd like to start with the US Department of Defense's Drone Dominance Initiative. What are its main objectives?
Okay. Basically, because of the Mr. Trump just mentioned about the Ukraine war, what they learned is that the importance of cheap and cost-effective drone can actually make a big impact to your enemies. So the DoD, they actually invest $1.1 billion US, and they want to, in next 1 year, they want to buy 300,000 drones. So that is their program.
So for Thunder Tiger, what have the biggest compliance, security, and certification issues been?
Okay. As you mentioned, we have actually obtained the Blue US certification. And the Blue US is a military certification by the DoD. And there are certified companies getting this honor. And 30 of them are from US and 5 of them from overseas, but only 1 from Asia. That's Thunder Tiger. So it has been a very long time. We attend the AUSA show, which is a largest military show in Washington, D.C., started 4 years ago. And then we've been demonstrating to our customer, which is DoD, that our products. And then, so we are early mover. And then we work with them to be able to make all 100% non-Chinese components. So it's a lot of work to do.
So, I mean, you mentioned that Thunder Tiger is the only Asian company that's been able to get this certification.
Yes.
What's given the company its competitive advantage?
Okay, that's a very good question. Because we are a Taiwanese company, first of all, that we know the differences and the strengths we have. For example, we are the company in the world, the first one to use the automation process to do the motor wiring, because motor is the powertrain for all the drones. But usually in China, Chinese people, they actually use labor to manually to do the wiring. But what we do is that we invent and design a wiring machine so that we can actually use no labor, just machine to do the motor production. And also we do the integration, because Taiwan is a small island, so that we can utilize all the supply chain from Taipei to Kaohsiung in one day. Not like Europe or China or US, you need probably 2 or 3 days to get your supply chain integrated.
So that automated wiring system, is it only Thunder Tiger that has that capability?
Yes. Currently, of course, we utilize our vendor supply chain in Taiwan. They used to make the motor for Tesla, which is a big motor. But currently, the drones, they need a mini or small motors. So we utilize that capability and minimize it into a small wiring automation and motor manufacturing machine. So we invest one in Taiwan, and we invest another one in Ohio in United States as well.
So you mentioned the Ohio facility, and the production of motors there. Beyond manufacturing capacity, how has developing manufacturing in the US helped you develop your global strategy?
Currently, because of the cost-effective and cheap product motors that Chinese are making for drone industry. So currently, about 90% of the drone motors are being made in China. So we see an opportunity is that because of the geopolitical reasons that especially the US government are asking all the drones has to be made in US. So we are seeing that the demand in US is growing rapidly for the motors for the drones. So we just invest one factory in Ohio, but comparing the needs in United States, we actually can build each motor line in each state. So there are 49 states remaining. So the market growth is tremendous.
The war in Ukraine has become a lab for modern warfare. It's shown how low-cost drones can destroy high-value assets and fundamentally alter the economics of defense. That lesson is now shaping military planning around the world.
Now already Russians and we have drones 3,000 plus kilometers. And this year we will have 4,000 kilometers. Next year from 5 to 10. So with all respect, so 10,000, it means that United States is closer to the potential enemy.
So we just heard the greater interest in Ukrainian US support for drone procurement. Do you think that Taiwan should be learning from Ukraine's drone playbook?
Yeah, I believe so, because they mentioned about asymmetry warfare. And we can see Ukraine or in the conflict, in the U.S. and Iran conflict, actually the smaller country like Ukraine or Iran or Taiwan, they actually can learn that they can use cheap and cost-effective drones to destroy their high-value targets. So this is, I think, things that we can learn from them. But the environment or the surroundings are different. For example, Ukraine, they are facing a big plains. But in Taiwan, we are surrounded by waters. So maybe we can utilize a cost-effective sea drone or unmanned surface vehicle or unmanned surface drones. Then on the surrounding in the Pacific Ocean, then that can be utilized in case of conflict.
Adapting drone for the sea for Taiwan's case, is that the biggest takeaway from the war in Ukraine, do you think?
Yeah, I believe so, because the Ukraine, they use sea drone, one small sea drone, and then to destroy the carrier in Russia in Black Sea. And then by the same token, we will certainly can learn and utilize that system in Taiwan Strait.
And Ukrainian systems we've seen have the capability of striking targets as far as 3,000 kilometers away. Is that an opportunity for Taiwan's drone industry to develop that kind of capability, or is that competition?
Okay, certainly that is a good lesson that we should learn. In terms of that, we certainly have the capability to make the same cost-effective performance drones. And the challenge would be the satellites, because the satellites actually is controlled by our allies. For example, the Starlink or OneWeb, which is currently we are using with Chunghwa Telecom from the European system. So hopefully in the future we can go into have a cost-effective satellite communication system, and that is going to enhance our capability of our drones.
What do you think the limitations are for the satellite capability currently? Okay,
I would certainly feel that the satellite would certainly under some constraint for weather or jamming situations. So we will certainly need to develop also long-range proprietary communication system, which is Thunder Tiger and our vendors are developing as well. But currently we are using the system from DTC, which is a UK company.
You mentioned jamming systems. How worried are you about that technological advance? And you said that you're developing new systems to kind of counter that. How far along is that development?
Okay, currently, yeah, you are right, because Chinese aircraft, they have a very strong interference or jamming system. But anyhow, they have 3,000 satellites on the skies. And also, we have the proprietary communication, long-range communication system. So if you use the hybrid communication, which is a combination of satellite and the proprietary system, and also the 5G, 4G, it will be very difficult for our enemy to sort of block you all the way. So we still have the capability to navigate our drones.
US-Taiwan defense cooperation is entering a new phase. The focus is shifting beyond procurement towards joint development, supply chain integration, and the deployment of next-generation autonomous systems. Thunder Tiger recently partnered with Shield AI and integrated their HiveMind autonomy software into your Sea Shark system. What made Shield AI the right partner for this project?
Shield AI is a unicorn technology company for unmanned systems. So they call the HiveMind system, which is an AI system. It's like a human, but in fact, it's a machine to control high-value UAV or USV or UGV. So the HiveMind used to control the F-35 or to control MQ-9, but they do not have the experience to control the sea drone. So what we do, we collaborate with them, is that we provide our valuable sea drone, and they provide 3 sea drones, and then they use their HiMax to control through the ground station to control our sea drone and to surround the identified target, and then to be able to surround the target and then to track the target, and then so it's like it acts just like a man, but that man can actually doing a lot of tasks that a warfighter cannot do.
So you just mentioned tracking, navigation. How can these technologies be used in a Taiwan situation for the sea, for sea drones?
Yeah. For example, in the future or in the drill, that we assume there's a carrier coming across the Taiwan Strait and moving toward Taiwan. And then we can use our HiMax or AI to send 6 sea drones from Kaohsiung and to go over there to detect whether the whereabouts of the carriers, and then they can do the surrounding. And then if the carrier withdraw, then it's okay. If the sea drone or the carrier is still moving ahead, and then the AI can, based on the instruction of the human, to do whatever is needed, whether it's surrounding again, or to do the kinetic strike to the carrier to paralyze the carrier. So it's a lot of uses, and then that does not involve the human in the process.
Mm-hmm. People have talked about a hellscape scenario in, say, there was a Chinese carrier coming across the strait, and these systems can be used in the sea and the air to kind of trap the Chinese side. Could you give an example of how that would work together?
Yeah, that's very true. Actually, the MND in Taiwan, they actually are planning to purchase 1,300 drones, which is valued at 40 billion Taiwanese dollar. So they plan to purchase 1,300 drones and deploy them every 6 in each in group and on each harbor or coastline. And then if there's conflicts, and then they will just send the sea drone over, or they can have the sea drone floating just around the Taiwan Straits. So that will certainly behave as floating protection for us.
Mm. And as the US-Taiwan technology ecosystem expands, is Thunder Tiger working with any other international collaborators at the moment?
Yes, very much. Not only working with the Shield AI, we currently also working with one of the unicorn company, US core Autorion. Autorion is a company invested by DoD, and then what they do is that they do the edge computing. So they're edge computing with the camera on the drones. So what they do is that once you fly away, they actually visually lock. They use the camera to lock your target. So the hit rate, the accuracy hit rate will grow from 30% to 90%. And additionally, we work with a French company, and we also work with Israel company for various of drone technologies.
As you mentioned earlier, Taiwan is looking at more asymmetric defense postures. What next generation technologies should we be looking at to push that forward? Okay,
I would believe that the AI collaboration with the world leading company, for example, like Shield AI, Anduril, Environmental, these companies, they have their own software and hardware. We have the Taiwanese company have the expertise to making a good UAV or drones, but they have their software and firmware and also the computing know-how. So once we collaborate together, we can make the best drone that can fit into the environment in the battlefield.
So Taiwan's obviously a semiconductor leader. How can the drone industry tap into that existing semiconductor ecosystem?
We have a lot of partners from, for example, in US and in Israel. And the reason they operate with us is that we have a very good hardware manufacturing, and also we are very near to TSMC and many other foundries and silicon companies. So what we can do together is that we can assemble these things all together in Taiwan, and then we ship to them, and they just put their software, and everything is done.
So Taiwan's also said that they want to make 100,000 drones per month by 2030. Do you think that Taiwan can be a drone leader globally? I
believe so, and then this is once in a lifetime opportunities that due to the geopolitical reasons that we are, as a democratic team with the US and Japan, we should be able to utilize the policy in Blue US, we call the non-red policy, and to make sure that our product is truly non-red, and then away from the jamming or interference from our counter opponents. So that will certainly, once we stick to the non-red policy, the differences for price, the differences for performance will be appreciated by our customers.
Do you see any bottlenecks holding the industry back at the moment?
I don't see the bottleneck in the long run, but in the short run, of course, we need to develop the drone with more capability. For example, as I explained, the long-term, long-range communication, also the camera with the night vision capability. But these can be resolved in the next 12 months. So I believe that hopefully we will be in a good shape and in the non-red camp.
Just looking at the big picture, the next 3 to 5 years, where do you see Taiwan's role in the drone industry evolving?
Okay, I believe that the Chinese companies are very specialized in manufacturing good hardwares, electronics, and silicon things, etc. So we're going to integrate these capability into make a full drone system, and those drone system is going to be utilized and combined with the software and firmware from overseas, and then we can become a very good and cost-effective and high-end product to the world.
Gene Hsu, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
What we've heard is that the future of the drone industry will be defined not only by hardware, but by trusted supply chains, AI-enabled autonomy, and the ability to scale production quickly. For Taiwan, that presents both a challenge and a historic opportunity. My thanks again to Gene Hsu, General Manager of Thunder Tiger. Coming up next, we look at the numbers behind this rapidly growing market in this week's Supply Chain Index. Military drones are becoming a core part of modern defense strategy. The market is projected to grow from $20.7 billion in 2026 to $66.5 billion by 2035, driven by geopolitical tensions, advances in autonomy, and rising global demand. The question is no longer whether drones will transform warfare, but how fast. On July 6th, a Ukrainian long-range drone struck a major Russian oil refinery deep in western Siberia. The target was located roughly 2,500 kilometers from Ukraine's border. After maneuvering around Russian air defenses, the drone's total flight path exceeded 3,000 kilometers. Just a few years ago, that kind of range would have been associated with advanced missile systems. Today, it can be achieved by relatively low-cost autonomous drones.
I remember clearly when I first publicly announced the comprehensive national plan of the state to produce over 1 million drones per year. And there was a lot of skepticism everywhere, honestly, both outside and inside. And now we can officially state and announce that we are currently producing 10 million advanced drones every year. 10 million, and very soon that number will rise to 20 million. We will achieve this by working hand in hand together with our strategic partners.
President Zelensky says that Ukraine is currently producing around 10 million drones a year and hopes to double that number in the years ahead. Yet, Ukraine's advantage lies not only in the number of drones it builds, It's the speed at which it can innovate. Rather than relying on a handful of megafactories, Ukraine has created a decentralized network of more than 500 secret workshops, garages, and kitchen tables spread across the country. Combined with government support through the Brave One innovation platform, streamlined procurement, and constant battlefield feedback, new technologies can move quickly from testing to frontline deployment. The result is a pioneering model of defense innovation, where the battlefield acts as both a laboratory and proving ground. So in many ways, this war is establishing a new paradigm for how defense technologies are designed, tested, and scaled in real time. As the global drone race accelerates, Taiwan is working to turn its strengths into manufacturing, innovation, and trusted technology ecosystems into a new strategic advantage. Whether drones become Taiwan's next silicon shield remains to be seen, but one thing is already clear. The technologies reshaping the battlefield are already reshaping global supply chains. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Laurel Stewart, and see you next time on The Chainmaker.